A furious millionaire couldn't understand Chinese. Maid's daughter ended the standoff. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. In a lavish penthouse overlooking the city skyline, a millionaire sat at the head of a long, polished mahogany table. The room was filled with the scent of expensive leather, fresh flowers, and the subtle hum of high-end technology. He was the definition of power and success. Yet, in that moment, he couldn't help but feel a growing frustration. Across from him stood a young girl, no older than 12, wearing an ill-fitting maid's uniform. Her name was May, the daughter of his family's housekeeper. She had always been quiet, always obedient, always invisible, as her mother had taught her to be. But today, May stood tall, her small hands folded neatly in front of her, trying not to let the nervousness show in her eyes. The millionaire, a man used to being in control, glared at the contract laid before him. His jaw clenched as he scanned the document. There was something off about it, something he couldn't quite place. That's when he turned to May. "Translate this," he sneered, tossing a piece of paper in front of her. "You probably can't even read Chinese properly, but give it a try. I'm sure it's just nonsense." May looked at the document, her heart racing. She could feel the eyes of the millionaire's colleagues on her, their judgment heavy in the air. They all seemed to think the same thing. How could someone like her, a mere maid's daughter, possibly understand such a complex legal document? But May wasn't like everyone else thought. She had grown up around books, around languages, around history. Her mother had always told her that her mind was her greatest asset, something no one could take away. And so, with a deep breath, she picked up the paper and began to read aloud in flawless Mandarin, her voice steady and confident. The millionaire's eyes widened. In disbelief. He had no idea she could speak Chinese, let alone translate it perfectly. As May continued, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The smug expressions on the millionaire's face and those of his colleagues began to falter. They had underestimated her, as they had always done. May wasn't just any maid's daughter. She was far more than they had ever imagined. When she finished translating, she looked up and met the millionaire's gaze. "This contract," she said quietly but firmly, "is a forgery. The terms are false, and I can prove it." A stunned silence filled the room. The millionaire, who had been so sure of himself moments before, now sat frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. His arrogance had clouded his judgment, and now a young girl was exposing the truth. May's words had not only shattered his pride, but had also saved him from a massive financial loss. In that moment, he realized that he had been wrong, and the girl who he had thought was nothing more than a maid's daughter had just saved his empire. As the room remained in stunned silence, the millionaire slowly began to process what had just happened. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. May, the young girl he had dismissed as nothing more than the housekeeper's daughter, had just exposed a major flaw in his deal. His colleagues, the ones who had been so smug just moments ago, now shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension. The millionaire cleared his throat, his face red with both embarrassment and frustration. "How did you know?" he asked, his voice low but heavy with disbelief. May remained calm, her hands still folded neatly in front of her. She was used to being underestimated, used to being invisible. But today, she was different. Today, she had shown them all her true worth. "I have been reading books on languages, on history," she said quietly. "My mother always told me that knowledge is power. I learned to read between the lines, to see things that others overlook." The millionaire looked at her for a moment, his mind racing. He had always thought of himself as a man of power, someone who could control every situation. But now, he realized that power didn't always come from money or influence. It came from the mind. And in that moment, May had outsmarted him. He sat back in his chair, stunned. He had just been saved by the very person he had mocked. The room was still quiet, everyone waiting for him to speak. Finally, he let out a deep sigh. "You saved me," he admitted, his voice thick with a mixture of pride and shame. May simply nodded. "I didn't do it for you," she said. "I did it because it was the right thing to do." The millionaire paused for a moment, looking at her with newfound respect. He had never expected to learn a lesson from someone like May. But here he was, a man of wealth and influence, being humbled by the daughter of his housekeeper. "I owe you more than just thanks," he said, his voice softer now. "I owe you a chance." May raised an eyebrow, unsure of what he meant. The millionaire smiled faintly. "I'll make sure you get the opportunity you deserve," he said. "You have a future ahead of you, May. A future far beyond this house." May felt a flicker of hope in her chest. For the first time in her life, someone saw her potential, someone recognized her worth. As the tension in the room slowly dissolved, the millionaire stood up and extended his hand to May. She hesitated for a moment, then took it. The respect was mutual now. He wasn't just a wealthy man anymore. He was someone who understood the power of knowledge, the power of the mind. And May wasn't just a maid's daughter anymore. She was a person who had proven that no one, no matter their background, should ever be underestimated. The next few days were a whirlwind for May. The millionaire, now deeply impressed with her intellect and bravery, made good on his promise. He began to arrange meetings for her with some of his most trusted advisors. He spoke of opportunities, of chances that May had never dreamed of before. She had always kept her head down, focused on her studies in the small corners of the house, never daring to imagine that one day she might be seen as someone worthy of respect and recognition. But now, everything had changed. As she sat in one of the luxurious conference rooms, surrounded by polished wood and sleek glass, May felt both nervous and exhilarated. The billionaire, Harrison Aldridge, sat beside her, explaining the importance of the project she was about to embark on. He had connected her with a top university, one that had agreed to offer her a scholarship. "This is just the beginning," Harrison told her. "You're going to change the world, May. I know it." For the first time, May allowed herself to feel a spark of hope. She had always been an outsider, the child of a housekeeper, treated like invisible furniture in the world of the wealthy. But now, she was being given a chance to prove her worth, to take her place among those who had once looked down on her. Over the following weeks, May worked tirelessly. She immersed herself in books, studied languages, and attended the university meetings Harrison had arranged for her. Each day, she learned more about the world of business and finance, about the power of knowledge and how it could change the course of her life. But as May's confidence grew, so did the challenges. The other students at the university were skeptical of her at first. They couldn't understand how someone from her background could be at their level. May faced whispers behind her back and sideways glances in the hallways. But she didn't let it deter her. With Harrison's support and her own determination, May quickly rose to the top of her class. Her ability to think critically, her passion for learning, and her unyielding drive earned her the respect she deserved. It wasn't long before she was presenting her own ideas in front of influential business leaders, something she had once only dreamed about. One afternoon, after a particularly successful pitch, Harrison invited her to his office. "I knew you had it in you," he said with a smile. "I see you becoming a leader in this industry, May. Your mind is your greatest asset. Don't ever forget that." May smiled, her heart swelling with pride. She had come so far from the quiet, invisible girl she used to be. She had earned her place, not because of who her parents were, but because of who she was. The next chapter of her life was just beginning, and May was ready to take it on. As she left Harrison's office, her thoughts raced. She had once been overlooked, underestimated, and dismissed. But now, she was a force to be reckoned with. Her journey had only just begun, and she was determined to make the most of every opportunity that came her way. As May continued her journey in the world of academia and business, she faced new challenges that tested her resilience in ways she had never imagined. The scholarship she had been granted allowed her to study in some of the most prestigious institutions in the country, but with each new accomplishment, there were always those who sought to remind her of where she came from. One evening, after delivering a flawless presentation in front of a panel of business magnates, May sat quietly in the back of the room, her mind racing. She had done it. She had impressed them all. But as she reflected on the work she had done, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. A new, unsettling thought began to creep into her mind. Had she truly earned her place in this world, or was she still simply the housekeeper's daughter trying to prove herself? Her thoughts were interrupted when Harrison entered the room, a warm smile on his face. "You did it again, May," I'm proud of you, he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. May stood up, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. Harrison had been her biggest supporter from the beginning, but something in her was still unsure. Thank you, Harrison, May replied, forcing a smile. But sometimes I wonder if I belong here. Harrison raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised. May, what are you talking about? You're one of the brightest minds I've ever met. You've earned your spot more than anyone else here. May shook her head. I don't know. Every time I step into a room full of people who are so different from me, I can't help but feel like I'm just pretending to fit in. Harrison looked at her with understanding. I know it's hard, but the fact that you've come this far, against all odds, shows just how capable you are. Don't let anyone, or anything, make you doubt that. May looked at him, feeling a sense of gratitude wash over her. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she had a real chance at something more than just survival. But just as she was about to respond, the door to the room opened, and a group of her classmates entered, their laughter echoing in the hallway. May quickly turned away, not wanting to be seen in this moment of vulnerability. But Harrison noticed. Don't let them affect you, he said softly. They see you as different because they're threatened by you. Your intelligence, your drive, they can't stand it. May nodded, but the weight of his words lingered. As she left the building that evening, she was approached by a fellow student, someone she had grown to admire during her time at the university. May, the student said, her voice hesitant. I've been meaning to tell you, you're amazing. The way you think, the way you present yourself, it's inspiring. May smiled, her heart swelling with pride. Thank you, she said, her voice quiet but sincere. As she walked away, she realized that for the first time, someone saw her for who she truly was. Not just as the housekeeper's daughter, but as May, the intelligent, determined woman who had earned her place in this world. The next chapter of her journey had just begun, and May was ready to face whatever came her way, knowing that her worth was never defined by where she came from, but by who she had become. As the months passed, May's life began to change in ways she had never imagined. She had become not only a student, but a force to be reckoned with in the world of business. Her ideas, once dismissed, were now being taken seriously by those who had once looked down on her. But despite her newfound success, the doubts still lingered. She had made it this far, but would she truly be accepted? Would she always be seen as the girl from humble beginnings? Or could she build a future where she was valued for her intelligence, not her past? One evening, after another successful business presentation, May walked through the grand halls of the university, feeling both proud and exhausted. The walls seemed to close in on her as she passed by the portraits of wealthy alumni who had walked these halls long before her. They had the connections, the resources, the lineage. She, on the other hand, had only her mind, her determination, and a will to prove herself. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice calling her name. It was Harrison, standing at the end of the hallway, a warm smile on his face. May, there you are, he said as he approached her. You've done it again. That last pitch was brilliant. The investors are already asking for more of your ideas. May smiled faintly, but there was something in her eyes, an uncertainty, a hesitation. Thank you, Harrison, she said, trying to hide the doubt creeping in. But sometimes I wonder if I'm just fooling everyone. I'm not like them. I wasn't born into this world. I don't have their connections. Harrison's smile softened, and he placed a hand on her shoulder. May, you don't need their connections. You have something far more valuable, your mind. You've proven that you belong here. And more importantly, you've earned the respect of those who matter. May looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had come so far, yet there was still this nagging feeling that no matter how hard she worked, no matter how much she achieved, she would never truly be accepted. It's just hard, she confessed. I've spent my whole life being invisible. Now that I'm here, I feel like I'm still fighting to be seen. Harrison nodded, understanding. You don't have to fight anymore, May. You're seen, and you're valued. Those words hit her harder than she expected. For so long, May had been fighting against the odds, against the belief that her past defined her. But now, with Harrison's support, and with the doors she had opened through her own hard work, May realized that her future was not defined by where she came from, but by who she was becoming. As the days went on, May continued to excel, and with each success, the doubts slowly faded. She no longer walked through the halls of the university feeling like an outsider. She walked with her head held high, knowing that she had earned her place, not just as the housekeeper's daughter, but as someone worthy of respect and admiration. It wasn't easy, but May had learned one of the most valuable lessons of all. She was her own definition of success, and no one could take that away from her. As May continued to rise in the business world, she was faced with opportunities that seemed to fall into her lap. Her presentations, once met with skepticism, were now eagerly anticipated by investors and executives alike. The same people who had once dismissed her, who had looked down on her for her background, were now turning to her for advice. But no matter how many achievements she racked up, May never let herself forget where she came from. Her success had not come easily. She had fought tooth and nail for every opportunity, every chance to prove herself. One evening, as she was leaving another successful pitch meeting, she received a call from Harrison. "May, I need you at a special event tomorrow night," he said. "It's a private gathering with some of the top executives in the industry. Your presence there would mean a lot, and I think you could make a real impression." May hesitated. She had never felt comfortable in social settings like these. The world of high society, with its polished smiles and carefully crafted personas, had always felt foreign to her. But this was different. This was her chance to be seen, to prove once and for all that she belonged in the room. The next evening, May stood in front of a large ballroom, the shimmering chandeliers overhead casting soft light over the sea of well-dressed faces. She had never felt so out of place. The people around her seemed to float through the room with ease, their conversations flowing effortlessly, their laughter light and carefree. May, on the other hand, felt like an imposter. She adjusted her dress nervously and took a deep breath, reminding herself that she had earned this moment. As she stepped into the ballroom, all eyes turned toward her. Whispers spread like wildfire, and May could feel the weight of their judgment. But this time, she was ready. Harrison spotted her across the room and walked over with a warm smile. "May, you made it. I knew you would." "I almost didn't," May confessed, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "This place, it's overwhelming." Harrison placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice calm and reassuring. "You've earned your place here, May. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." As they mingled, May found herself standing next to a group of executives, all discussing the latest trends in technology and innovation. She listened closely, absorbing every word. The conversation shifted to a new project, one that required a unique perspective. Without thinking, May spoke up, offering her thoughts on how the project could be improved. For a moment, there was silence. Then one of the executives, a well-known entrepreneur, looked at her with surprise. "You've been listening closely," he said. "I didn't expect that from someone. Well, from someone like you." May's heart skipped a beat, but she stood tall. "I may not have your connections or background, but I have my own ideas, my own experiences. And that's what matters." The room fell silent for a moment, before the entrepreneur smiled. "I think you just might be the missing piece we've been looking for." From that moment on, May was no longer the girl who had to prove herself. She was the woman who had earned the respect of those who had once looked down on her. And with that, her journey was far from over. She had built a name for herself, but she knew there was still more to achieve. And with every step, May was proving that no matter where you come from, your worth is defined by what you do, not who you were born to be. As May's career continued to soar, she found herself in increasingly high-pressure situations. With each successful deal, her reputation spread, and the opportunities kept coming. She had been invited to join advisory boards, consulted for major firms, and even had offers to speak at prestigious conferences. But despite her growing success, the weight of her past, the constant feeling of being the outsider, never quite left her. She had always been the housekeeper's daughter, no matter how many boardrooms she stepped into. One day, as May was preparing for yet another important presentation, she received a call from Harrison. "May, I need you to meet someone," he said. "A potential investor. He's interested in some of your ideas, but he's old school. You'll need to convince him." May agreed and prepared herself for the challenge. When she arrived at the meeting, she was greeted by a man in his late 50s, sharply dressed, and with a cold, calculating demeanor. His name was Victor Carlson, a billionaire with a reputation for being ruthless in business. As soon as he saw May, his expression hardened. "You're the one who's been making waves, huh?" he said with a tone that was almost mocking. The maid's daughter turned businesswoman. I've heard the story. May stood her ground. I'm not here to talk about my past, Mr. Carlson, she replied, her voice steady. I'm here to talk about the future and the opportunities we can create together. Victor didn't respond immediately, but instead looked her up and down, sizing her up. Let's see if you're as impressive as they say, he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. May took a deep breath and began her presentation, outlining her ideas with clarity and confidence. She spoke about innovation, business ethics, and the potential for growth in the markets she had been studying. Her words were precise, her vision sharp. But as she spoke, she could feel Victor's gaze on her, as if trying to find any weakness, any flaw in her argument. The meeting went on for nearly an hour, with May answering questions and countering objections. Just as she thought she had won him over, Victor leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. You're good, he said finally. I'll give you that. But there's one thing you haven't convinced me of. May raised an eyebrow. What's that? You haven't convinced me that you belong here. You're good, but you're not one of us, Victor said bluntly. His words stung, but May refused to let them break her. She looked him in the eye and replied, I don't need to belong to your world. I've built my own. Victor was silent for a moment, studying her. And then, for the first time in the entire meeting, he smiled. You've got guts, I'll give you that, he said. Maybe you do belong here after all. The rest of the meeting went smoothly, with Victor agreeing to invest in her project. As she walked out of the building, May felt a sense of pride. She had not only proven herself to Victor, but had also reminded herself of who she truly was. She was no longer the girl who needed to fit in. She was the woman who had carved her own path. The doubts that had once plagued her were now fading, replaced with the confidence that she had earned her success. May knew that this was just another step in her journey. There would be more challenges ahead, more obstacles to overcome, but she was ready for them. She had come so far, and nothing, no one, could make her doubt her place in the world again. As May stood at the threshold of yet another new chapter in her life, the weight of her journey was both exhilarating and overwhelming. She had proven herself time and again, but something inside her still felt unsettled. Her transformation from the housekeeper's daughter to a respected businesswoman had been nothing short of remarkable. Yet there were moments when doubt would creep in, questioning if she had truly earned the respect she now commanded, or if it was just a fleeting recognition from those who didn't fully understand her. One evening, as she was preparing for a major presentation that would decide the future of a project she had been working on for months, May found herself reflecting on everything that had led her here. She remembered the times she had been told she would never make it, the countless instances where her ideas were dismissed simply because of her background. Yet, here she was, preparing to present in front of some of the most influential figures in the business world. She wasn't just hoping for success, she was certain of it. The meeting began, and May stood before the board of directors, her heart pounding but her confidence unwavering. She spoke with clarity and passion, presenting her vision for the future of the company, a future that included bold new innovations and an approach that was both forward-thinking and ethical. As she wrapped up her presentation, the room was silent. The executives exchanged glances, each processing the gravity of what May had just shared. Then, as if on cue, the chairman of the board stood up and began to speak. May, what you've just presented is beyond impressive, he said, his voice filled with admiration. We've had numerous proposals over the years, but none have carried the same weight as yours. You've proven that you not only understand the future of this industry, but that you are ready to lead it. May felt a wave of pride wash over her. For so long, she had felt like an outsider, someone who had to fight for every scrap of acknowledgement. But now, she was being seen for who she truly was. Thank you, she said, her voice steady. I've worked hard to get here, but I'm only just getting started. The meeting ended with applause, and May left the room feeling like she had just taken the final step into a new reality. But as she walked down the hallway, something unexpected happened. Harrison, who had been with her every step of the way, stopped her. You did it, May, he said with a proud smile. You've earned your place in this world. And this is just the beginning. May nodded, but there was a sense of peace in her heart that she had never felt before. She had spent so many years trying to prove herself to others, but now, she realized that the only person she needed to prove anything to was herself. And in that moment, she knew she had already succeeded. Her journey wasn't defined by where she started or by the doubts of others. It was defined by her determination, her intellect, and her refusal to accept anything less than the future she deserved. As she walked away from the meeting, a new chapter of her life began. She was no longer the girl who was looked down upon. She was a woman with a vision, a leader who had earned her place among the best. And this time, there was no turning back. As May looked out over the city from her office window, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. The path she had walked had been long and difficult, full of moments where she wondered if she would ever be accepted or truly succeed. But now, sitting in her own office, surrounded by a team of talented professionals, she knew that everything she had worked for had been worth it. She had built a life that was her own, free from the constraints of her past. She had proven to herself and to the world that she was capable of achieving greatness. The phone on her desk buzzed, and she picked it up, a smile spreading across her face as she heard Harrison's voice on the other end. May, I wanted to personally congratulate you. You've done it. You've not only built an empire but changed the landscape of this industry. May smiled, her heart swelling with pride. Thank you, Harrison. But I couldn't have done it without your support. Harrison's voice softened. No, May. You've done all of this because of your intelligence, your determination, and your courage to face challenges head-on. You've built this future for yourself, and you deserve every bit of success that comes your way. As she hung up the phone, May looked out at the skyline once more. She remembered the moments of doubt, the times when she had been told she wasn't good enough, that she couldn't make it. But she had always pressed on, trusting in her own abilities. And now, she had not only proven everyone wrong, but she had also proven something to herself, that she was capable of achieving her dreams, no matter where she came from. The work ahead was still vast, and May knew that there would always be new challenges to face. But now, they didn't seem so daunting. She had the confidence and the strength to face whatever came her way. As May prepared for her next big venture, she reflected on the lessons she had learned along the way. It wasn't just about proving others wrong. It was about finding the strength within herself to never give up, no matter how difficult the road ahead might seem. She had fought for every success, earned every opportunity, and, most importantly, she had never let anyone define her by her past. She was no longer the girl who had been dismissed and overlooked. She was a force to be reckoned with, a woman who had created her own path to success. And as she looked forward to the future, May knew that this was just the beginning. Her journey had only just begun, and she was ready for whatever came next. There was no limit to what she could achieve, and she was determined to keep pushing, to keep growing, and to keep inspiring those who, like her, had once been underestimated. Because now, May knew that the only limits that existed were the ones she set for herself.